Major news coming out of Asia. We have a major typhoon, or basically a hurricane, about to hit some major population centers in China. And this may affect you very soon because that's where we get a lot of our medical supplies from, a lot of our critical medicines and medications. I wanted to bring on an expert to talk about the supply chain impacts of that. So please welcome to the show, Dr. Sean Rowland. Dr. Sean, you've been tracking this. Could you just give us a little bit of an idea of what this might entail for most Americans?
Yes, thank you. Thanks, Steve. Thanks for having me. Happy to be on to talk about this. It's something that we're always watching around the world, things that are going on, especially things that could disrupt our supply chain. And in our world, that's really the medications, the pharmaceuticals that we consume on a daily basis. And this particular typhoon, so far, I mean, it's massive in its kind of scale and power, and it's hitting some pretty populated areas around Indonesia, China, Hong Kong, and in particular those southern ports of China, where a lot of not just our medicines, but just in general, a lot of our supplies that come across there and make their way to the U.S. So we're watching it really closely. Unsure at this point, really exactly what's going to happen, but really it's just one more reason to stop and notice and educate yourself. And a lot of people don't understand that in the United States, when it comes to the medications that you take every day, whether it's for your blood pressure, for seizure disorders, for anxiety, depression, those antibiotics, and even your vitamin C, in one form or another, China has about a 90%, I'd say about 90% of those medications come out of China, whether that's the active pharmaceutical ingredient, whether that's the entire medication itself. But they own a really significant portion of that supply chain. And so these kinds of things are always, important indicators to be paying attention to.
All right. Yeah. They got China's got 400,000 people being evacuated out of Shenzhen just right now. That's just north of Hong Kong. And you were just sharing with me a little bit before the show about how we don't even know where the medications are coming from in China. It's absolutely crazy. So thank you so much for joining with us, Dr. Sean. Now, you are partnered up with Jace Medical. A lot of folks are familiar with them in the preparedness community. And how long have you been with Jace Medical?
Well, since day one. I'm the one that founded the company and came up with kind of the plan here why did we need this kind of a service to begin with? Why did we need, what our kind of go-to-market initial product and service was the Jace case. And, why was that something that was needed in the United States? Why did my patients need it in my private practice? So it's been,
you guys came across my radar like about 3 years ago, I think, but like, when was it that you actually started?
Yeah, so we haven't been. We're still relatively young. We started in 2021, so it's only been about 4 years, 4.5 years.
Right. And what was your medical background before Jace Medical? And could you share that?
Sure. Yeah. So I am a board certified family medicine physician. Really, and within that, full scope family medicine. From newborn babies to the older population. Everything in between. I've worked a lot in critical access hospitals, emergency departments, urgent care, and then I also do kind of disaster relief work, search and rescue, that kind of thing, is part of my background as well.
Yeah. Now, Jace has added a whole bunch of extra stuff nowadays. You like catered to us folks. I was just seeing up about a year ago, I think it was, you added ivermectin that you can actually prescribe to people. They can get their own prescriptions. It's not just the Jace cases and the antibiotics anymore. So that's it's like the stuff that we want. You're getting it to everyone legally and in a safe and controlled way. So
Yeah,
really appreciate that.
Yeah. That's we are always in tune with our patients who come back and talk about the needs that they have. And initially going into it, we realizing that we had this horrible dependency and from China on this supply chain issue that we talked about. But then there's all kinds of things in between there, whether it's a natural disaster, whether it's travel, whether it's just you're at home and it's the middle of the night and you don't have a pharmacy that's open, or you can't get in to see your doctor in a timely way. Just access to these services. And so it's more, like you said, it's much more than just having an emergency supply of antibiotics, which I think is the bare minimum that everybody should have. And then you've got folks who have chronic conditions. They should have a year supply of those medications, so that it's just one important, I guess, preparedness checkbox that they can say, I've got what I need when it comes to my health needs. And then you bring up some other specifics, whether it's ivermectin, or other specific medications that are just as important and people need access to. So we always are working to add on whatever it is out there that people have shown, hey, there's a need for this, and we'll look at the safety of it. We'll go through the physician team and the pharmacists, and we'll figure out a way that if it's something that we can do that's safe and appropriate, we'll do it.
Yeah. So with this major disruption potentially going to hit us from China, like you said, we don't really know where the factories are, and you were just telling me how the FDA doesn't even know where the factories are in China that are making different pharmaceuticals. So, but they're probably around some of these major cities, and this major conglomerate of cities, Macau, Hong Kong, Shenzhen, Guangzhou, all in one place, and they're about to get hit right in the face with this typhoon. You're more familiar with kind of the supply chain of medications, like how a lot of our society is moving to this just-in-time model. Like, how much is that really happening with medications too? Like, are medications being produced relatively quickly over in China and then showing up on the store shelves relatively fast in the United States, or is there a long delay in warehouses and stuff?
It's a great question. That just-in-time mentality, unfortunately, is absolutely well embedded in the pharmaceutical supply chain, as far as standard practice. If you go to your neighborhood pharmacy, and you actually look on the shelves as what they got, and you realize that that's supposed to represent the sum total of all medications available for that community at that time. It's not that much. If you actually look at the shelves, there's not that much there. And even for things that are, antibiotics in particular are so time critical. It's not like, hey, I've got this bad infection. I can wait a day or two or three. If you've got a bad infection, you need to be taking that medication now. And there's times where we've had patients that come back to us, usually it's after having a bad experience where they had an infection. They got a prescription from their doctor. They went to the pharmacy, and the pharmacy said, yeah, we can get that. We can overnight it. We'll have it by tomorrow, or maybe in a couple of days. And you're sick as a dog, right? That doesn't work. And so then they come back to us and get prepared, so that doesn't happen to them again. And certainly we've had quite a few of other testimonials of folks who may be on a vacation or traveling, who get a urinary tract infection or something else, a sinus infection, and have their J's case on hand, and saves the trip. And so we're seeing that more and more. But more directly to your question, as far as this timeline. So what we're able to tell here, even though you might look at the list of, say, like the top 5 manufacturers of pharmaceuticals. If we're looking at, let's just keep it to antibiotics for now. These are generic medications. They're typically very cheap to produce, and because of all of this, all of our manufacturing capacity has been offshored, outside the U.S. And if you look at those top 5, you see 2 really. It's China and India. And so you say, well, yeah, India's on this list, and that's not China. But then it turns out, and some of this we found out through COVID, India came out and said, actually during COVID, that they get something like 60 to 70% of their active pharmaceutical ingredients come from China. And so you start to follow this thread, and you start to pull on it, and you realize that, like I said before, in one form or another, they've got their fingerprints on virtually all of our pharmaceutical supply chain. And then to further kind of exacerbate the issue, the FDA, while the FDA, these medications have to come out of FDA approved, licensed facilities, the final form factor does. Many times you've got other components, whether it's the active pharmaceutical ingredient, whether it's the binders or the fillers, the things that go into your medications come from other places in their supply chain. And that's where things fall apart. And the FDA doesn't know where they originate from. There's not a lot of control there. And so it makes this kind of thing really hard to do, to look at, well, we've got this storm coming, or maybe it's an earthquake in some other part of China, or whatever the case may be. And it's hard to know. What we do know is that we have this just-in-time supply chain. We see the list of shortages of medications that the FDA and others maintain, and it's just growing year by year, day by day. And so it's just one of those things. We use this typhoon as a reason to say, hey guys, open your eyes, pay attention. This has a real potential to do something. But even if this blows over, the problem has not gone away.
Yeah, last year we had a hurricane. Was it last year or the year before? We had a hurricane that hit was in North Carolina, and it flooded the main production facility for the saline IV bags. And we just saw. I got so many reports from our community about how they weren't able to get IV bags, or that the hospitals were rationing the IV bags. And we saw that ripple through the entire country for almost a year and a half. And they finally got their production back up and running, but it took them, what was it, like 6 to 8 months to get their production even back online at all. And
Yep.
then it took them even more to ramp up after that. And they were still behind. And there's still some shortages due to that. And it's just like, when we've concentrated all of our production for these critical supplies down to 1 or 2 factories in the whole world, it's not surprising when we see problems arise. And the fact that there isn't a warehouse full of critical life-saving medications that I may need definitely puts us on notice that we need to be protecting ourselves and our families a little bit better. And my father just had that problem. They said that he might have an infection, or it might be something else, and they weren't giving him his antibiotics to treat that possible infection. Because they were testing this, testing that. And, that's the kind of situation where we see. And then, like you said, then you go to the pharmacy but then maybe it's the weekend. Maybe it's going to take a day or two to get that prescription in. Maybe they just don't have enough to give you. How many in this audience have been shorted on their medications in the past year? They were supposed to get 60 days and they got 15 days and got told to come back. I mean, this is the type of dependency that is so it hits us close to home. I've fielded these emails from so many of our community where they were shocked that this could even happen. And I'm sure you've heard just so many stories of that. And this is an opportunity for people to build a little bit of independence and make sure that their families are taken care of. Jace Case has it's antibiotics, right? And then you can add on certain prescriptions too, if people have medical prescriptions that they absolutely need. But could you walk us through, like, if someone's like, I want to do that, do they just give you money and you just send them pharmaceuticals, or like, what's the process? I want people to see how legitimate the process is.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I'm a physician, and this was something that a problem that I had for my own practice, even for my own family. This was, and we started right in the middle of COVID. A lot of uncertainty, a lot of fear, certainly. And as I learned about the vulnerabilities of the supply chain, and then I'm seeing these reports about shortages of physicians in the United States, and I have patients telling me that it took them weeks, like just to get a checkup appointment. It took them 4, 5, 6 weeks. And so this access is a real issue. And so that was the problem and I had patients call me and, hey, I'm going on a trip. Could I get a medication just in case I get typically it seems to be like urinary tract infections, or hey, I get sinusitis a few times a year. I'm going on this trip. I don't want to be caught. And I'd say, of course, let's get you taken care of. And then realizing like this is something that everybody needs the same access, needs the same coverage, that same peace of mind. We're all dependent on the same system. And so needed to build a solution from the ground up that accounted for doing things safely, doing them properly. So all of the medications are come from prescriptions from licensed physicians, go to licensed pharmacies that are licensed in whatever state you're coming from. And the process is as easy as we could make it. There's a balance on kind of the regulations and the safety. But what we've done is basically you go to the website. Are you interested in, you mentioned the Jace case, comes with 10 vital medications that everyone should have, the same as you've got Tylenol and ibuprofen in your medicine cabinet. You should have these basic 10 medications. You start there. If you want to add on other things, if you want to add on ivermectin, if you want to add on any other particular medications that you feel like you need, add those on. We also have our service for the chronic medications. If it's something you take every day, it's a different service, but the process is basically the same. So you go online, you put in what you want, you fill out, and then basically you check out. After you check out, we'll send you an email or a link that takes you to this questionnaire, and it takes you about 5 minutes to fill out. Asks you basic questions about your health, so we can make sure you're not allergic to anything here, that your organs are working like they're supposed to, you've got a regular doctor, and then the physician reviews that. They'll reach out if they have any questions. They'll ask you. If not, you're given an opportunity to ask a question. If you don't have any question, everything's great, and it all gets transmitted to the pharmacy. A few days later, you have these medications show up at your door. The idea is to try and really decrease the friction between patient, physician, to that access to healthcare and medications, and so that whole process shouldn't take you more than 5 to 10 minutes. You don't have to set up an appointment. You don't have to schedule things, try and coordinate your schedule with the doctors. And so all of that makes it really easy.
And now they get their Jace case, they get what they need to get from you. Are they then on their own, or are they still able to consult with you guys? How does that work with that?
Yeah, so certainly they're not on their own. I'm very passionate in my own practice about education. It's about how I approach healthcare and medical decision making. It should be made really jointly with the patient. We're together in this journey, and so we want the patient to have as much education as possible to understand that these are powerful medication. There's a reason they come with prescriptions. Not everything is treated with an antibiotic, and they're not without their own risks. So we ship these medications with a whole set of we call it our med deck, and the med deck has the medication, the conditions it treats, how to take it. But the idea is that that's kind of a backup. Really, what you should be doing is if you're in a situation where you think you need it, call your doctor, ask your neighbor doctor, anyone who's a qualified healthcare professional, and they can guide you. We also have our own network. You can write in with questions. Now we're not built to take a phone call and say, "Hey, I'm really sick right now. Should I take this medication?" But certainly, you have support in the physician to answer general questions about the medication, things you should look out for, whatever that question may be. So we do have that access. It's ongoing. As long as you're a customer with Jace, you can access that service. And so that's very important. It's not just a bag of pills that you get delivered to your door. There's ongoing support afterwards.
It's legitimate, it's backed up, and it's a potential. You said about, whether people have ibuprofen or aspirin in their counter, just in case. But this is the same kind of stuff, except aspirin isn't probably going to save your life. I mean, maybe if you have a heart attack or something like that, they say do some of that stuff, but it's probably not going to be a life-saving medication like antibiotics can be. I mean, antibiotics can mean the difference between losing a limb or whatever. I mean, I'm not the doctor here, but this is very true. I'm not the doctor. But I've lived overseas myself, been in places where we didn't have access to medications. And one of our rules of my team where we were in Central Asia was we're not allowed to go to the hospital for any reason whatsoever, because we talked to the doctors there, and they did not believe in bacteria or viruses, which is truly astonishing. Even though it was like about 15 years ago, but still, just that some places don't even believe that stuff, and they were putting infectious patients in the same room as people who have broken a bone or something like that, and you just say like, that's just crazy. But we had to treat ourselves and be able to take care of ourselves. And we didn't have any Jace cases back then. Would have been a lifesaver potentially back then. But this is just something that I think people should really have on their radar. If they have a life-saving medication that they need to be taking every day, to be dependent on a pharmacist and a supply chain that stretches all the way back to China, that's getting whacked with the typhoon right now, might not be the bestest choice in the world. So I appreciate you and what you have set up here with Jace Medical and the services that you provide. So you're also providing food now, I think, Jace Pantry. You got some other things that you
put on? Really check out the you were right. It's life and limb. When I said true, it's because you were right. This is a life or limb kind of a thing. And at the end of the day, we're trying to help people with their peace of mind. We're trying to help them get prepared overall in their wellness. Medications are first and foremost on the list. If you're not in good shape, your food storage doesn't do much good. But those are things you need as well. So we have our Jace Pantry. It's an amazing kit if you look at it. Food, water filtration, and then we're really excited about our first aid kits. They're next level. First in the world for what they offer. And that's another thing to check out. Certainly these are all things that they're just prudent things, that should be on everyone's list. And like you mentioned, in those situations where you don't want to be dependent on other people. And in the past, it's been really hard when you talk about medical things to not be dependent on a whole system, as you said, that stretches back to China, and we're trying to fix that. So that's why we exist. That's jace.com. And we've tried to make it as easy and as accessible as possible.
Yeah, I'll put that down in the pinned comment down below too. So if people want to go check you out and see what you guys have and how that might be a solution for them. But yeah, just in the last couple weeks, I've gotten a number of comments about people saying that they could not get into, they couldn't get in to see a doctor because either their insurance wouldn't let them, or they needed to go to their primary care doctor to get a referral to even go to a rapid response place, or just some crazy stuff out there. Not everyone has a primary care doctor, and just how is this? The system is just broken nowadays more than it's working. And when someone has an urgent need, we're just seeing that a lot of people are just falling through the cracks these days. And I'm sure you're hearing a lot of those stories yourself about how this is helping people out who either fell through a crack and they're trying to get prepared, or you helped them and when they fell through a crack, they were able to kind of take care of themselves and their family.
Yeah, it's that the just in time is not just for the medications. The whole system is operating this way. It means that everything has to go perfectly, and even then you're going to have issues, but it takes just the slightest little blip to kind of start that domino effect. And you find that in your area, you can't get an appointment. Medications are not to be found, or the hospital's overrun, whatever the case may be. And we've certainly had, it might be just a local storm. We've had, I remember back a couple of years ago, New Jersey, kind of back east, they had some horrible blizzards, and basically, these communities were socked in. Ambulances couldn't get in, they couldn't get out. And women were giving birth at home because they couldn't get to the hospital. And we had elderly patients who reached out to us at that time, so thankful that they had their supply already, that they didn't, because maybe it just happened to hit, that storm hit during the time you were waiting for your refill to come in the mail, that you can wait for every month. And so we heard from those patients just how the life-saving and the peace of mind that it offered. And those kinds of stories are repeated. Unfortunately, they're repeated every day because of the system that we live in. Fortunately, there is a solution now, whereas there wasn't just a few years ago. There's action that you can take, and that's what we've done. It's what we're currently still building and adding on, the services and the capabilities to really be able to fill in the gaps here and meet that need.
Yeah, I can't even imagine what those people were going through. That's just absolutely crazy. So, well, thank you, Dr. Sean, for what you've done and you've built, and the things that you're making available to folks. I know it's been a help to a lot of the people in our audience already, and this community, the Watchman community. So, thank you so much, and thanks so much for hopping on here. We're going to keep you guys up to date with Typhoon Ragasa as it churns ashore in China. We'll keep our eye on the supply chains. And of course, the Watchman community will be letting us know if they're seeing any issues with medications in the coming weeks. All right. Thank you so much for joining us, Dr. Sean. Folks, if you want to get some more information from Jace Medical, down in the pinned comment down below. And you have a last word you want to share with us?
No, I really appreciate the platform. I think, anytime we can get the word out. I think I know a lot of your viewers know about us, know who we are. Tell your neighbors, tell your friends. We have this duty to warn when we learn about something that is a true concern, and it's something that we should tell our neighbors about and tell everyone about. That there's things that they can do to get prepared, whether that's directly through Jace, whether it's in other ways. That's what we're all about.
Absolutely. Thanks so much. All right, friends. We will see you guys later. Next time, Steve Poplar and Dr. Sean Rowland of Jace Medical out.